Hi guys, welcome to Susty Talks. I'm Ellie, and today we're going to talk about how there is no such thing as a sustainable fashion expert. If you're new here, Susty Talks is a community-centered podcast where we have authentic conversations around ethical fashion, around sustainable change, and about intersectional solutions that we can take together as a community. And I just really hope that it's an online space for you where you get inspired to take positive change, where we take action because of the things that we learn here. And I just want to note that this is a self-funded initiative. I don't take ads. I don't take any, sponsors. Even if I was a big content creator, I wouldn't take it. So if you want to support me, my eBay and my Depop will be in the description. I rehome vintage clothing. So if you want something that's cool, unique, and affordable, check those out. And then in the future, if you want to support me, I'm currently working on upcycled Mexican denim collection. I'm currently working on some pieces, so look forward to that in October. I'll be launching it, hopefully, fingers crossed, in Chicago Fashion Week. So that's coming up. But yeah, today we're talking about how there is no such thing as a sustainable fashion expert. I'm actually a bit nervous. The title may sound a bit clickbait, not gonna lie. And a lot of people may not end up liking what I have to say, but that's okay because we're all different and we look at things in a different way. We have different experiences. But I truly believe that there is no such thing as a sustainable fashion expert, and I'll get into that. So sit back, get your tea, get your coffee, put this in the background, and let's get started. So to explain a bit of my background, I actually used to be a union activist, and I used to be an environmental activist, and I've been a fashion activist. So I've been part of many numerous grassroots, people-powered movements. I truly believe that activism is the route to achieving systemic change. I believe that we can achieve this non-violently. So I hold near and dear to me people power, movement building, grassroots initiatives, and helping people get the resources they need to have a beautiful, respectful, and dignified life for themselves and for their families and for future generations to come. I think we all should have our agency respected. We all have free will, and I think we should exercise it. We as Americans are privileged enough to have our rights in a sense, but I think there's so much more work that we can do to be better supported, to have a lot more access to goods and resources, especially as one of the most powerful nations in the country. I do think that we need to support each other. We need more community initiatives that are local and impactful for each other. And I truly believe in democracy. So this leads me to say that, unfortunately, capitalism is not really working for the majority of the people. I feel like there is a class divide right now where, millionaires and billionaires are basically on top and extracting from us while everyone else is left getting the scraps. And it's really hard to survive right now. The rent is so high. We're not getting paid enough. And the planet is really feeling the effect of all of that. But I don't think money is inherently bad. I think money is a tool that we use to trade to get the resources and the things that we need within our current economic system called capitalism. But for me, and maybe others would agree, that capitalism is bad. Bad because it's been used in a way to use others to extract resources and to accumulate greed and wealth at an unprecedented rate at the cost of people and planet. But it is our current system. I recognize it. I live in it. Again, money is not inherently bad. It's just how it's being used and how it's being manipulated is really what is causing it to be evil. And to explain sustainable fashion a bit more for those that are kind of familiar, it's basically a term that's derived from the issue called fast fashion, which is a name that we've called our current fashion industry because we're just creating a lot of goods really fast from cheap materials and from the exploitation of garment workers, which are usually females in the global south, which is, Bangladesh and just like under-resourced countries or countries that we've essentially exploited for years and years and years. And I think fast fashion is a root cause of capitalism and colonialization. Our supply chains have essentially become a way to cut corners and to get as much money as we can. Because when is the last time we heard of a local fashion district or a local fashion hub or a local fashion manufacturer? It's not a thing anymore. I think fashion has just become a way to get money for a lot of brands. It's not even fashion that we're producing anymore. Like if you look at Shein, if you're looking at all these brands, it's just like cheaply made cookie cutter print sort of things. Like there's no aesthetics, there's no artistry, there's like no beauty to what we're currently buying in the mall. But the problem is that European and American consumers know this. They know that the clothing they're buying is not super complex. They know that it's not super unique, but it's kind of cute. It's kind of stylish, and it's what everyone else is wearing. And they may be aware of the issues, but they're like, oh, I don't know what to do about it, or it's beyond me, or like that cognitive dissonance is excused by like, oh, if I don't know the story, or if I don't personally see it, then it's not my problem. But another term has arisen as well called slow fashion, which is the exact opposite of fast fashion, where there's more like intentionality, there's more time to make things, there's more artistry, there's more skills weaved into the pieces. And it's basically, you can say, a rebellion or a antithesis to what we're currently seeing in the fashion industry. And I've seen a lot of people step up to the plate and move themselves away from a general apathy that a lot of consumers are in right now with the fashion industry, and then trying to do something. Because at this point, I genuinely believe that every consumer is aware of what's happening. Like, if you're not aware of what's happening in the fashion industry, I genuinely think that you're living under a rock. The thing that I want to explore today is those people that have, I guess, the bravery, the courage, the initiative, the time, the incentive to become what has been called a sustainable fashion expert. And these people can self-label themselves as an expert. They may have gone to college, they may have specialized on this topic, and then felt entitled or warranted in a way to call themselves an expert because they've studied it in some capacity or have specialized in this topic for a project or something. There can be people calling themselves a sustainable fashion designer just because they believe in the ethos of sustainability, or they may be using a sustainable material, or they may be using dead stock material, or they're using less water or less resources compared to a standard designer, or maybe they just call themselves a sustainable fashion designer without actually doing any of the work, but care about the values itself, despite their actions and their collections not really truly 100% representing their ideals. There can be sustainable fashion brand owners that call themselves sustainable fashion experts. There can be long-standing fashion workers, those that are in the industry that care about the topic, may write about it in journals or articles or in books, and hence call themselves experts because of that. Maybe someone has like a large social media following, talks about the topic, hence they start believing that they're the leader or expert on this topic because of their big following online. Or someone may be selling some sort of product or service, whether independently or through a company, that gives them a sense of being the one that knows more than the average consumer. And then there's also an array of fashion academies, whether it's certifications, master degrees, bachelor's, mini courses. There can be informal fashion classes or more formalized fashion classes where you have to pay for things. There can be an array of sustainable fashion books, whether ebook or physical copies, that are readily available for consumers to learn about sustainable fashion. And then also, the type of job that you have, whether freelance or employed by a company, also gives you maybe a sense of legitimacy of being more knowledgeable or more of a thought leader within this topic. And so all of this makes up what we can call a sustainable fashion expert. I may have forgotten some things of what can warrant you as an expert in this field, so let me know if I've missed anything in the comments. But that's all that comes to my mind when someone says I'm a sustainable fashion expert, and then they kind of list what they do. They can have certifications, obviously. They could have learned about sustainability. They could have learned about, circular economy, maybe have a lot of school, academically wise, like maybe even master's or a PhD. And usually they are from the global north. So like America, United States, Europe, stuff like that. And they have a lot of privilege and a lot of opinions. Those are the patterns that I've seen. And I'm not saying that sustainable fashion experts are inherently bad or evil, just as much as I explained that capitalism is not inherently evil or greedy. It's just how it's used can often take a dark turn, and I'll explain why. So we have enough clothing to clothe the next 6 generations, and it's been happening for years. And I feel like sustainable fashion experts are not really fixing the problem as they should. So we need systemic change. We need things to be reformed on a big level through laws and policies. So I don't think that sustainable fashion experts will ever really fix anything individually. I think as a collective we'll be able to do something. And I don't really think it's a competition who does the best work. So I just want to explain that, because in my eyes, we don't really need quote unquote experts to tackle systemic change, because the real work, I feel like, in my opinion, comes from activism, comes from grassroots collective efforts, and it comes from a lot of people coming together without ego, without self-imposed titles, and actually putting their heart and their actions to the efforts that really is needed to push the needle. Okay, so I've seen the most talented change makers come from an array of experiences. They most likely didn't go to school, but they were brilliant. A lot of times the activists that I knew who were pushing for a lot of initiatives were unemployed. So in my eyes, I don't really think that you have to have a lot of academic degrees or have certain job titles or have all these like courses or books or things behind you. So that's just a little thing that I want to note. But I also want to say that experimentation is truly invited in our efforts, because oftentimes we want to come up with a lot of innovations when we're quote unquote a sustainable fashion expert. So we'll come out with like a material, or we'll come out with like some sort of new guide or ethos or philosophy on sustainable fashion. But honestly, I think we're all, as sustainable fashion experts, missing the point of what we really need to do. Like, if you look at our climate crisis, it's just getting worse. If we look at the exploitation within the fashion supply chain, it's just getting worse. I feel like within the past 25 years since this like sustainable fashion term has come out, we've only really seen things scale and get worse and worse and worse. I actually recently read an article where they explained that there is basically no such thing as sustainable fashion, since a study from Stand Earth revealed that 47 of the largest fashion companies are actively accelerating climate change by emitting greenhouse gases through their supply chain. Also, there's just a lot of fashion brands making a lot of PR announcements all the time, explaining that they're going to be doing, this sustainability effort or eliminating fossil fuels somehow by like 2500. Like even sustainable fashion friendly brands like Patagonia, like Allbirds, Ellen Fisher, they don't even meet like basic requirements to reduce emissions in the long run. I feel like we need to have some, nervousness or distrust around brands and also sustainable fashion brands. And often enough, sustainable fashion experts, I feel like, are also practicing their own sense of greenwashing, because if they're not really doing anything impactful or running campaigns or pushing for legislation or, challenging their local politicians, I think they're honestly complacent. I also want to note that sustainable fashion expert, the title itself sounds kind of silly in my eye, because we don't usually go around saying, oh, I'm a sustainable phone expert, or I'm a sustainable shoe expert, I'm a sustainable car expert, I'm a sustainable vegetable expert, I'm a sustainable coffee expert. No other industry, no other market has people calling themselves, I'm a sustainable fashion blah blah blah, or sustainable blah blah blah. There is no other movement, you can say, where people are like, yeah, I'm a sustainable coffee expert. I'm a sustainable coffee activist. It just kind of sounds weird and ridiculous. I think in a way, like, we're in a industry where a lot of people want a title. They want their ego boosted by saying they're doing something, by having a role. But I think it's just all make-believe. It's all a play session, you can say. Because, like, what are they actually doing in the big picture? But I'm not going to hate individuals because, again, this is a systemic issue. The point that I'm getting at is that we are facing unprecedented times and we don't have time to be calling ourselves experts. Maybe your knowledge is good. Maybe your degrees are good. Maybe your resources are good. But is that needed to challenge the rampant capitalism, colonialism, and exploitation of our times? If it doesn't meet the action that we need, I don't really feel like we need more experts. I just want to explain too that the global north right now is just selling us products. It's selling us ideas. It's pushing consumers, us, the people, to buy more new pieces, whether it's through ads, affiliate links, or being sponsored by major brands, whether sustainable or not. I'm personally a ethical fashion blogger. I don't have any ads, I don't have any affiliate links, and I don't promote products. The point of my blog is to educate people for free, and it's a resource I do out of love. But a lot of other sustainable fashion bloggers would not do the same because they say, I need to make money, because we are in capitalism, under capitalism. So, and I totally get that, but it's just like, once we start trying to make money as a sustainable creator, a sustainable expert, we go back into the system and we play by their rules. And we continue playing this role or this game of supporting the very thing that's causing the issue in the first place. It's greed, it's evil, but it's money. We need it. And how do we escape from that? You really can't sometimes. I truly think it's unacceptable to use my platform to push for new sustainable fashion goods. So, like, we have enough clothing. We don't need a new algae leather jacket. I think we need to rehome clothing. We need to find more people to love all the things that we have in existence. And I think education is key here because we have a lot of stigmas around secondhand clothing. Sometimes we don't understand the nuances of the fashion industry, even if we're kind of aware that there's issues there. So education and rehoming, I think, is one of the key elements of progressing change in the fashion industry. But I also want to note there is no truly sustainable product, even when it's newly manufactured. Even when I resell a vintage piece, it's never sustainable because we're using, resources. We're using the gas from the male person. We're using all these other things that I have no idea that is required to get the piece to the new owner. And everything just leaves a ecological footprint, no matter how conscious we want to be, whether we want to be resource efficient or not. Things are always going to harm the planet no matter what, because we're so fossil fuel centric. Like, we need gas, we need oil right now to function. And as we see more sustainable fashion experts emerge, we collectively need to move away from producing new products, producing new brands, producing, new resources, especially when we have enough clothing to clothe the next 6 generations. Like, I think personally the best route forward is to make more things out of dead stock materials, to, resell used clothing at a very cheap price, open up more thrift stores on a local basis, host more clothing swaps. And I also want to note that we don't need more clothing at all, though. What's the point of getting more stuff sustainably when we're not even using the things that we have in our closet? I actually saw some wild statistics where it said that 30% of a average UK consumer's closet is not even worn, and it's 50% for an American consumer. So 50% of an American consumer's closet is not used. And on average, a US closet has about 100 to 150 items into it, and we're not even using half of it. Then another report explained that we buy about 50 items a year, And if our wardrobe already has 100 to 150, we have to get rid of some things, okay? So it seems like we're throwing everything away that we have in our closet every 2 years if we're having 100 to 150 pieces consistently every year. So we're proactively buying too much, having too much in our closet, and getting rid of too much in our closet on a very routine basis. Again, I always believe that using what we have in our closet is the most sustainable and ethical option that we have. We hold the power to do what's good. We are the ones that know best our closet, our style, how to consume ethically, how to consume within our limits and boundaries. Outside forces will always tell us what's best. Outside forces will always try to acclimate themselves as the leader and tell you what to believe. But it's really easy to go up to your closet and be like, okay, do I really need this? No. Do I like this? Yes. Will this fit my needs? Maybe. There is no need to buy more clothing, whether from a sustainable fashion brand or not. There is no need to read a million books to understand that this is something that you have to take time with and like understand yourself with, because if you don't understand yourself, how are you going to understand how to dress yourself? But we've become so disconnected with so many different things, including the fashion industry, that we resort to people calling themselves experts to know the way forward. But the issue here is not how to understand sustainable fashion, but how to tackle fast fashion as it is, so that in the future we have a normal fashion industry that's inherently sustainable, inherently good, and inherently serving our needs. So if we do ever need something quote unquote new or needed for us, it will be there for us. But again, sustainable fashion brands have a lot to benefit and make money from the problem. And they use that by selling us things. So I would just be wary about using our money to buy ourselves into solutions, because that never really creates systemic change. I also think that we need to use our time more effectively. It needs to align with broader scopes of action, where we're working with a lot of people, where we're touching on national laws, national policies, national politicians to push democracy where it needs to go. I think that we need fewer roles. We don't need the title expert to do anything. You don't need fancy degrees to, take initiative. You don't need a job within this quote unquote sustainable fashion world to do your part. I think self-entitlement often comes into play within very privileged, what I call niche topics, where a lot of women within the global north are almost feeling empowered to call themselves something, given that a lot of other people are not calling themselves experts. We need to move on from, profit-driven sustainable action, such as fashion collections, fashion handbags, ebooks, e-courses, academies. I was seeing recently how some academy charged like $300 for a 1-day, 4-hour course on sustainable fashion laws. And I felt that was just profiting again from the issues at hand. If you're going to make a resource, you should probably do it for free so more people can get on board and take action. It shouldn't be gatekept because some people have money and others don't. But I think we just need more creativity. We need more vision of what can be possible for the fashion industry. We don't have to create more things to create an impact, a positive impact. And I just also wished that instead of calling ourselves experts or leaders in this field, we took a step back from our self-centered ego and started to honor and respect more indigenous cultures, respect past ways of life, and sustain a balance that is more in harmony with people and the planet, where we're coming together to address our community needs, where we're working to protecting each other, where we use clothing as a way to express ourselves versus trying to sell something to other people. And I think approach is what really matters here. I do think that the current fashion industry is rotten to its core. It's corrupted by greed, and it's basically filled with uncapped ambition that can only be stopped with systemic change. And we really do need every single person possible to come together to push for change. And I think it'll be essential for us and for the planet. And hopefully along the way, the industry can change and normalize to, better sustainable values and more ethical, values as well. And I also want to note that a lot of people that I've noticed within the sustainable fashion movement have a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts and a lot of visions, but most of them don't even know how to even sew their own clothing. And this is not to be mean. This is just a mere observation that often enough the people that say they're at the forefront of change or the forefront of innovation don't even know how to make their own clothing. I don't think I'm better than anyone because I know how to make my own clothing. That's not the point I'm making here. What I'm simply saying that if you lack the basic skills of an industry, if you don't even know how to do a simple shirt, but you have these ideas or thoughts on how to change the whole fashion industry as a whole, I think you've just lost yourself within ideological and intellectual bubbles, and they're not really grounded in even basic level understanding of the industry that you're in. Like, if you don't know how to make clothing, if you don't know how the pattern comes together, how are we really going to understand how to fix the entire supply chain of the industry? It doesn't make any sense to me. So if you want to give ideas or solutions, you need to know what you're actually talking about in the first place. To end off this podcast episode, I just want to say that we do need more fashion lawyers than ever before that have ethical and sustainable values that are embedded within the laws they introduce and hopefully passed to hopefully hold fast fashion brands accountable on a legal basis. Right now we have a lot of voluntary action, a lot of voluntary initiatives, but I think fast fashion brands need to be forced to comply. And I think those that are going to push the needle to pass things are lawyers and politicians. And we also need more local activists that are pressuring their politicians to pass environmental and socially conscious laws and initiatives. So that can be both for fashion or for other things related to fashion. And I think generally as fashion lovers who care about the planet and care about people, we should also be supporting other laws associated with our human rights and dignity and respect. I also feel like we need an emphasis on more free resources, free things. So free clothing swaps. And if you're going to do a book, give it away. If you're going to provide a resource, provide it for free. A lot of times we're eager to learn, but if you're making a course that's $500 or $300, who is that serving? We also need more volunteers that are supporting their local thrift store. Often local thrift stores are swamped with so much donations. They don't even have enough manpower to go through everything and price everything. And hence it's all bundled up and thrown away or, sold to a textile company that then ships it to the global south. We also need more fashion lovers mending used clothing, whether they're own or in a program of sorts where they can repair other people's stuff. We also need more spaces created where we can collectively come together to repair our stuff. So one, we find community with like-minded people, and two, we actually update and upscale our damaged used fashion items. And also we need to learn from indigenous cultures. We need to live in balance with people and planet. And we also need less ego. We need, quote unquote, less experts. That's not going to change the issues in the fashion industry. Just because it's on your LinkedIn, just because it's in your Instagram, title, it doesn't make you so if you're not really tackling things on a big level. And then what we don't need is more expensive seminars where like-minded sustainable fashion leaders or sustainable leaders in general are just coming together to talk about the same thing over and over again, but they're talking in an echo chamber because they all agree with each other. But because it's so expensive and it's not, put online, it doesn't really reach the masses. We also don't need more influencers flaunting their quote-unquote sustainable fashion brands or fashion hauls. That's just promoting more consumerism. We also don't need nihilism. We shouldn't say we can't change anything. And I don't think we should focus on the small things in the fashion industry. I think we need a big picture, collective, reckoning of what's at stake if we don't take action, where we present good solutions that a lot of people from a lot of backgrounds can come together and support. And I don't feel like we need more white privileged Karens coming and speaking as the ones that know best, especially when low income individuals from usually BIPOC backgrounds are the ones that have been forced to live sustainably their whole life. They've been forced to repair their closet. They've been forced to reuse, reduce, repair because of lack of resources, and who often come from a background that have experienced environmental racism and systemic exploitation and erasure for their whole life and know how to resist and know how to take action where it matters. And we don't need more experts from the global north. It's often enough a standard of practice to platform global north quote unquote experts who just, in my opinion, have way too much time, way too much privilege, way too much ego, and way too much money in the first place to even be talking and taking up space. So we need to pressure brands to hold themselves accountable, but we need laws to force them to take action, to force them to be accountable, because they're not really going to do shit if we leave them alone. We need to boycott the consumption of new products, whether they're made unethically or ethically, whether they're made sustainably or unsustainably. We need to stop buying so much stuff. We also should be using only the things that we need. But I totally get it if you can't buy bras, underwear, and socks used. For me, that also includes hair products, hygiene products as well. Actually, I used to work at a thrift store and they would donate hair products, and then I would usually grab them because none of my coworkers wanted them, and we would give them away for free to our community, but no one else grabbed them, and I had no problem using the donated shampoos and hair creams. I didn't care. It was good. It was just a bit old, 2 or 3 years old or something, but I really didn't care, and it saved me money. But hopefully you understand where I'm coming at, that we need less privilege, less egotistical people, and less titles. We need to actually take action versus taking rules up that don't benefit anyone except for yourself. This is a systemic issue that makes up a lot of individuals, and these individuals should come from an array of backgrounds, and they will come from an array of backgrounds, and it's just a loss to only speak in an echo chamber, to only reach white privileged people that have way too much time to give their ideas and their thoughts, when that's not actually going to be what really changes things. If we actually take the effort to reach frontline local communities who are facing systemic issues and environmental racism, and plugging them into initiatives and efforts that will be impactful for their lives, that is what's needed, whether in the global north or in the global south. If you're from the global north, step back and see how you can help empower garment workers versus putting yourself on a pedestal for doing something. That's all I'm going to say. I have no personal beef with anyone whatsoever. It's just I don't see anyone else talking about this. I don't see anyone else having qualms with privileged white people taking the lead on sustainable fashion. But also, I want to note that sustainable fashion is a concept that was invented in midst of fast fashion. But sustainability and sustainable fashion is just an inherent part of people's everyday lives, where they don't have money to buy new every single time. As a low-income Latina, I have lived sustainable fashion my whole life. I have needed to use my older brother's pants my whole life. I've needed to repair holes in my pants or my shirt or my jacket, whatever it was, because my money was not there. My parents didn't have any money. I didn't have any money, and I still don't have any money. Now, if we go around saying that we need to buy ourselves into something, that leaves people like me out of the movement who deeply care about people and planet. So rhetoric and narratives really do matter. And I think the only way that we can really talk about this is when we include everyone and when we see each other as mere people. We do not need titles to do something. We do not. So hopefully this empowers you to take action. We're just all normal humans who are stepping up to the plate and taking action in a meaningful way. I know this may not resonate with a lot of people, and that's okay. That's truly okay. And if this podcast was a bit messy, that's just how my brain works. I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert, okay? And I like how I'm messy with this explanation, with this conversation, because we often enough have like sustainable fashion people come on to these professionalized webinars or like things and just make it seem like we're talking in like this very intellectually superior way, and we got to present things so neatly and like precisely. And it's just, we have to be real about this stuff. Like, show your emotions, show the desperation, show your true values here. Like, we can't hide behind professionalism. We don't have time to. I like this unstructured way of thinking and talking. I like the tangents. Hopefully you do too. If you have any other ideas and what you want me to talk about, let me know. But this has been why I believe there is no such thing as a sustainable fashion expert. Until next time, peace and love. Ellie.